And we're back. Hi again, just for those of you joining in new. I'm Stefan Rust. I'm the founder of Truflation and the Truth Network, your source of truth for any kind of predictions and outcomes in the future. Happy to be back. Hope you all had a good weekend. What I do on this podcast is really just share with everybody some of the ongoing, some insights on what we're seeing across Truflation, across the Truth Network, and the ecosystem that is building around the Truth Network, including some of the amazing prediction markets that are growing, as well as some of the other futures, perpetuals, and indexes that are being created. Why? We just think that there needs to be a calculation out there. We've been doing a calculation agent. We've been doing this for 4 years now. We've been doing it with one of the most important single metric that matters from an economic standpoint, inflation. Why is inflation so important? It is the driver between money printer go burr and between interest rates, which actually also is an incentive to distribute money into the market. At least that's what people think. Ultimately, it comes down to largely government spending money over budget and printing a lot of money to meet that budget because it is always in excess of the income that they're generating. The current regime is trying to change this and turn this around so that ultimately the revenue numbers starts to grow. And we'll go into that. How is that working? We just had an announcement this morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, where the BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, announced inflation numbers. They came in at 2.7, which was at the high end of expectations. If you were paying attention to the Truflation podcast yesterday, Truflation always has to screen back, tighten its numbers, slow down the fire hose so that we can map our data sets to that of the BLS. We forecasted 2.5%. So we were under what they think. So there are a couple of thinkings going on. So I'll go into that a little bit. The other element we'll talk about, obviously, tariffs, still a topic, hot topic again. We talked about it on the spaces. So if you joined the spaces yesterday, you will have heard something around that. Ultimately, we will also cover off some of the crypto activities happening and also go into a bit around what's taking place in the prediction markets. Some really good news in the prediction markets, especially as related to poly markets. So stay tuned. We'll cover off lots of diverse projects and maybe we'll have some time to experience what waifu is like. Anybody know what waifu is? Let me know. What do you think? And we'll come to that. I can tell you it's got something to do with AI and Grok on that note. So, I guess the biggest thing right now is ultimately the government inflation number, right? So the BLS came in today and announced their inflation numbers. Here you can see the 12-month percentage change. So what they do again is what is the number this year compared to the same time 12 months ago? And this month, sorry, they look at it month on month. We look at it day on day. So again, another aspect why they take a whole month to aggregate everything, but I'll come to that very shortly. But here they go. They forecast 2.7%. You can see food at home, energy away from home. So the whole food category is up 3%. Energy down. We've seen that. The cost of oil is down. All items less food and energy. I mean, I don't know how you survive without food and energy. Those are the two most important ingredients for everything from transportation to utility bills, air conditioning, AC, to heating, let alone food for survival and energy, etc. And in fact, was so hungry. I've been trying out these new Wana protein bars. I don't know if you've seen that. Amazing, super tasteful, no sugar added, gluten-free. But it's nice protein bars, by the way. 14 grams of protein. So tasty as well. And we're not sponsored. Those are just, I take them. I go, as most of you might know, I get up early in the morning, 5:45. I'm in the gym at 6 a.m. and I'm doing my 80-minute workout. every morning, and then I'm rise and shine, rock and roll. And sometimes I just need some extra protein. Where do I go? All sorts of different sources. Ghost protein is another one I take. Ooh, super good. And I cannot live without Death Wish coffee, the strongest coffee in the world. And then Noco comes in, nice Swedish brand, 180 milligrams in a carbonated can of, yeah, flavored drinks from apple to mango to citrus to all sorts of different flavors. So really good too. That keeps me going. Those are all the things that give me the energy to keep going all the time when you need it. And just sometimes you do need it, right? So we all live as entrepreneurs. You're doing 996, if not 997, right? We're working 7 days a week, every day, all the time. Mainly we're breaking through. We have to be nimble. We have to be adjusting all the time, and we have to be moving fast. Why? Because we need to get distribution before the incumbents who already have distribution get innovation. And it's not just aha moment on innovation, but it's also the execution and the trickle down effect and getting all the people to understand what that new innovation is and how to execute and deliver on that innovation. So those are the elements that, as an entrepreneur, give us a slight up, that we are smaller and nimble and keep teams small. Yeah, either way, here we're going back to the inflation. Sorry, I get distracted here, but you can see all the points in here. Shelter is in here. Shelter's up. We're seeing exactly the opposite. So rent has been going up, but otherwise housing market's been coming down. Medical services, transportation services, and motor vehicle insurance, right? So, and airline fares down, but motor vehicle insurance is up. So that's what they're saying. But we know those in the know and in the flow will understand really quickly that inflation data has been threatened by the government hiring freeze as tariffs loom, right? It's got nothing to do with the tariffs. This is about their cuts in spending and their hiring freezes, right? So they already have 2,100 employees over there at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I don't know why they need that many, but because I guess they do it all manually and are working with really ancient systems. We're trying to bring about new systems, modern architecture, transparent, immutable for anybody to see and dispute. And if you really want to do it, just go build another inflation index and call it whatever you like and try to penetrate the markets. That's what we've been doing for the last 4 years, and we will continue to do so with Truflation.com. So subscribe, sign up, and get real data 45 days ahead that you can trade on pivots before anybody else is. And again, we had a pivot earlier this month, the first of the month, and we've just had another pivot 2-3 days ago. And what was that pivot resulting in? An increase in Bitcoin price, where we went all the way up to 123. So all of a sudden there was a big movement up. And so that was before this pivot now. And so now we've had a big correction. Okay, now we've had a bit pivot already again. So what does that mean? You can read about it in the blog post that we've shared on Truflation.com. Go to the blog and see the correlation between Truflation and Bitcoin. And if you are interested, there'll be more. Sign up. Tell us you're interested, and we will let you know on some of the new projects that we're working on associated with the capability to win in a market based on Truflation's 45-day lead time. And we are not burdened with Labor Department reducing CPI collection sample amid hiring freezes. So they're reducing their sample. So Truflation already aggregates in the US alone some 20 million data points. The BLS on the flip side, 80,000. Now they're reducing that 80,000 even further. And I guess that's partially why, due to these changes, it's getting harder and harder to continuously predict with an accuracy that we've been managing to keep up. But we'll get to it. We'll get down to it, and we'll be able to calibrate it again and we'll get it online, as we always do, right? I mean, the biggest thing that we see changes usually happen around January, so we never forecast the January, as all of you know. But if you don't know, we never forecast January because the BLS changes their methodology and only announce in February the methodology changes and the items that are included in price changes that they capture. And here again, all of a sudden in June, what, we're hit with a hiring freeze. Boom, a hiring freeze. So it doesn't mean we're changing anything. We're just not allowing you to hire more people, or the bigger thing is hire more consultants who do the work for us, and we pay gazillions of dollars to consultants, not to Truflation, that could help you get that data for free. By the way, we have offered Truflation for free to the government, and still no interest. And you don't need to take it, but you can use it. And we will give you a node so that you can operate it and you can extract whatever data sets you want off there whenever and however. If you want attestation, that's when you then maybe might need to pull out a credit card and pay a little money for that. It's a flat fee. It's super easy. But either way, that's what the government is suffering. How do we deal with that? How are we supporting that? And how are we trying to get transparency behind what is really taking place? And another question that might be arising is, are they using this excuse to manipulate the outcome so that the FOMC meeting that is happening on the 31st of July and last day of the month to not raise interest rates and to look at it slightly differently? And that's sort of what we see here, where Kublesi letter. So check that out. Good blog, good Twitter following thing if you're not already. But here you can see very clearly breaking. June CPI raises to 2 above expectations, like I said, which was 2.6. We were below the expectation. So we were at 2.5 based on the data and based on the traditional methodology that they used. Core CPI inflation rises 2.9, below expectations of 3. CPI inflation, and core, by the way, is excluding energy and food. I don't know, figure that out, man. CPI inflation in the US is now up 2 months in a row. Yeah, we know it went to 2.3 to 2.4, and now it's going from 2.4 to 2.7. So they're super worried about it, but the data is no longer accurate. It is no longer the same. They are not taking all the data into account. So they are working with old, crappy data. And we've been knowing that for so long. And here we are still talking about the same thing. And here we are still trying to constantly try to figure what they are saying is true. Why do we still believe, under all of these circumstances, do we believe the BLS? Isn't Truflation a more accurate reflection of the truth? You tell us, we're going to do a survey. Do we still invest our resources to try and calibrate all of our data sets and real, true inflation to map and meet what the slow, monthly, manual, analog, always editable data that the government announces, to map those two together? Should we still invest the resources to do that? And once a month, share on a Spaces what our prediction of some constantly changing, hiring freeze threatening, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, Bureau of Lacking Statistics, as we called it, or maybe some call it Bureau of Lying Statistics, and we still trust that and put them up on this pedestal, so that this pedestal can interact with the other pedestal where Jerome Powell and the FOMC meeting sit and decide on interest rates and how to manage an economy. That is so old school. That is boomer tech. That is legacy tech. That is outdated. That is no longer modern. So shouldn't we just work on a modern approach? We think so, and that's why we're doing so, and we will continue to do so as long as we are around. The other thing is, obviously, they talk about the the Fed pause will continue, right? So he actually said somewhere in another letter, yeah, so the Fed pause will continue. Of course, will the Fed cut? He didn't really like that. Nobody really thinks the Fed will cut. And if you look at Polymarket, there's really an unlikelihood that they will cut anyway, even though Mr. Trump definitely, or Mr. President definitely thinks that there should be a cut, to the extent that he's really gone out super vocally and made it very clear. So here you can see President Trump goes scorched earth on the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, slamming him for spending $2.5 billion on a luxurious renovation while keeping our interest rates sky high and costing us hundreds of billions of dollars. So I guess they updated their building. They're also looking to upgrade FedWatch. You heard about the hearings where Jerome Powell was asked about FedWatch. I can't remember what the name of the website was. Can you remember? Can anybody tell me in the comments here? But anyway, they invested, I think it was, I can't remember the numbers anymore, but they needed 200. They're not profitable. It was supposed to be profitable. They put about $2.5 billion into building up that capability, and they need another $250 million right now to upgrade the systems again, if not more. Or maybe that's the 2.5 billion that they need to upgrade the system right now. Ridiculous amount of investment into infrastructure. If we had money like that available at Truflation, wow, what could we be doing? How could you all be interacting, leveraging everything on an Explorer where you can actually see all the data, the sources of the data, get verification associated with that data, all using a simple MySQL database. No, it's a PostgreSQL database, sorry, that allows you to interact with a technology that all developers already know how to use. So no needing to learn new indexing programming languages, new Solidity smart contract programming languages, new Rust languages that are pervasive on the blockchain, but just use SQL. Super easy, super fast. But anyway, either way, I'm selling a lot. If Jerome Powell stepped down, it would be a great thing. He's not going to step down. I think that's the biggest thing. And here, I don't know.
I think if Jerome Powell stepped down, it would be a great thing. I don't know that he's going to, but he should. Jerome Powell's been very bad for our country. We should have the lowest interest rate on earth.
Let me know if that's too loud for you guys. Can you hear this?
He just refuses to do it, and yet he's spending $2.5 billion rebuilding the Fed, the Federal Reserve building. And I don't know what he knows about building, but you talk about cost overrun. So he got this approved.
So yeah, I guess it was the building. So they renovated the building, and that was really what cost them a significant amount of money. Yeah, I guess that's really around the BLS numbers, the inflation number, and just wanted to share with you our thoughts and why we think obviously it just reinforces our vision and mission in terms of what track we're on, and that we will continue to pursue this vision. Here you can see don't go to the Google Truflation.com, go to our calendar, economic calendar here, and you'll see all the upcoming activities taking place. So the FOMC meeting, as I was referring to earlier, was on Thursday, July 31st, 2025. So yeah, it's there. I think UK comes out with its inflation numbers tomorrow. So if you're in the UK and you're interested in this, go check this out. You can actually see, go back, you can actually see, ding, 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 July 15th, there we go, CPI. Tomorrow is the PPI, and tomorrow is the CPI and PPI from the UK. So lots of numbers coming out, the retail numbers, how are retail sales going across the US, UK labor market, and then also retail sales in the UK on Friday. So a lot of information. And then next week, we get into the Argentina focus. So let's have a look at what's going on there. They seem super confident, and Milei's doing a fantastic job in turning around that economy. So well done over there. But that's what you can see on the economic calendar on Truflation.com. So go check that out. Yeah, again, just coming back to inflation, where do we think it is, right? So we're at 1.82 versus the 2.7. So we went up from 2.4 to 2.7. This will be updated. But here you can see 1.82%, still way below. And look at the spike drop. Again, check out the Bitcoin. Go to our blog post, check out Bitcoin article and how you can trade Bitcoin using Truflation. Look, we dropped, huge drop here, which was a pivot change. Now we go up again. What does that mean? Does that mean Bitcoin will turn around again tomorrow? Check it out. Anyway, the other thing is, so here again, just, Trump coming out here, consumer prices low, bring down Fed rate now. Consumer prices low, bring down Fed rate now. So, why? Because ultimately there's a huge amount of outstanding bonds that need to be refinanced. And the idea is that the higher the interest rate, the greater the financing cost, which puts a strain on the government budgets. Because ultimately it's the cost of capital. And if I lock in a 10-year bond at today's price, it's that interest is valid throughout the 10 years, and I need to commit to those. What should have happened anyway, and people won't buy. You need to make it very attractive for people to buy that bond, right? And so that's the idea behind that. So that's really the inflation number. And I think not only is Trump upset about that, it seems that there's more and more rumors. So if you were on the Spaces yesterday, you would have heard we talked about this. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are two big institutions in the US that drive mortgages and financing for housing market. I'm encouraged by reports that Jerome Powell is considering to resign. Why? Because ultimately that brings down interest rates, or they are hoping that would bring down interest rates. And as a result, with lower interest rates, more likelihood of individuals refinancing new mortgages at lower prices. So that brings higher engagement, higher revenue, better for the housing market, which makes it attractive, again, for people providing mortgages or loans as it relates to the housing market. That's a bit on Powell, FOMC, interest rates, inflation, all of those sort of come together, and just wanted to cover off some of that. What is also coming together is also, tariffs. People are really worried about tariffs. How are they, which again influences the FOMC meeting and not dropping interest rates. And so here you can see Europe and Mexico. Trump announced a 30% tariffs. Now, apparently there's some European delegation flying to the US, spending lots of money to fly over there and sit down at a table with an army of 500 people to negotiate a new tariff. Why can't they do this over Zoom? Wouldn't it be much more cost effective? And if all these governments are constantly talking about environmental protection, why are they talking about flying over there with an army of, I don't know how many negotiators go over there. Generally, in my experience, it's at least 20 to 30, 40 people. And generally, it has a whole, trade delegation as well, which is delegates from these respective industries that are a part of the negotiation, from representative companies across those industries in those nations. They go along for it. But it sounds like Indonesia can just do a phone call and do it via Zoom, bing, 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 doom, done. And other nations seem to be able to do that, at least according to some of the narratives that we see out there. But anyway, so Trump says it will if they retaliate, these tariffs will go up, right? So let's see how this ends up, right? But anyway, tariffs announced by the US this week. So here you can see Europe, EU, South Africa, South Korea, Bangladesh, blah, blah, blah. So a whole bunch of countries here at 30%. But on the positive side, we've seen a huge uptake in income with the government, right? We've talked about that all of a sudden the government is starting to make money again, right? And I thought that was really interesting. We haven't seen that for a while. And where is that? Oh man, I can't find that article. But if you check out, you'll find online. Here we can just search import income. Oh, whoa, fuck. Excuse my language. I know it's adult friendly. Import duty here. Look at import custom duties. Income is now much higher. This was in January, right? June 1, 2025 was 26. And then all of a sudden, where was the number? It's like a huge increase in income from imports. So all of a sudden, tariffs seem to be working from a budget perspective if you annualize them over 12 years. That was it sort of on the sort of more macro inflation economics side. And ultimately, also what's taking place is the crypto bill is about to come up, right? So there's the Genius Act, and there's what's the other act? It's the the two acts coming up, which means that ultimately the Stablecoin Act gets put into law, which is going to be amazing and going to be a huge influx in the stablecoin market, and will be a growth in crypto assets as more and more of fiat world moves on chain, and a lot of the currencies are going to be digitized and visible and available on the blockchain, right? So here he goes, Trump. This is on Truth Social. Happy Crypto Week. The House will soon vote on a tremendous bill to make America the undisputed number one leader in digital assets. Nobody does it better. The Genius Act is going to put our great nation light years out of China, Europe, and all others who are trying endlessly to catch up. But they just can't do it. Digital assets are the future, no doubt about it. And we're leading by a lot. Get the first vote done this afternoon. All Republicans should vote yes. This is our monumental digital asset. The Clarity Act, that was it. The Digital Asset Act, the Genius Act, and the Clarity Act. It's all a part of making America bigger, better, greater. So what does that mean? Crypto assets are going to become the new currency of the world, and they're going to be backed by the dollar. So if you want to launch a stablecoin, you're going to need to have treasuries in the background and buy treasuries. And maybe there'll be a blend of 3-month treasuries all the way through to 10-year, 20-year, 30-year bonds that you need to be holding. And ultimately, you can then mint a stablecoin against that and its net value. So super exciting times. I think for crypto, it's going to be an amazing blast. And we are obviously, as you know, super committed in the crypto area. And how do we pick that up? How do we go after that? We're building out cool new products, right? And so here, if you haven't pursued this, check out index.fun. There's something is coming, and it's big. So check it out. Thursday, 17th of July, 2 p.m. Mark your calendar. See you there soon. So check it out. What does index.fun do? It takes about 60,000 sets of data that's available on the Truth network in SQL, and allows them to then be able to mix and match that with SQL-based smart contract language and be able to write that back to the Truth network as in the form of a calculation resembling an index. Super transparent and all available via an Explorer, so you can actually see the source, who created it, what is the breakdown of the index, and the latest data sets, and that is accurately coming from that source. And so those are things that users can get access to. And that's what index.fun is working on. So some super cool, interesting indexes. And check that out. And guess what? These indexes, if you can measure it, you can trade it. And that's the beauty of index.fun. And that's why we've been really building index.fun. And we see this as a huge opportunity because you can trade narratives. What does that mean? What's a narrative? A narrative is a sentiment that is growing in a community. And how do we package that in the form of an index, allowing you to trade that as a synthetic asset, as a asset-backed token, so you can actually have assets backing that sentiment. Why? Because you can measure it. And if you can measure it, you can assign an amount to it. And if you can assign amount to it, then ultimately it becomes an attractive tradable number that has influences around it. And people can monitor the influences above and beyond just the community. But ultimately, a narrative generally has a community already behind it. All the way from people trading secondhand Rolex watches to people watching OnlyFans to actually the Pentagon Pizza Index. All of those things are narratives. They have a community around it, and people track and monitor and like to watch that. And they are metrics that people can monitor and you can measure. So how do we enable the trading of such measurable items and indexes? And that's what we're working on at Truth Network, and index.fun is making that a reality so that you can play around with that and trade on that. Other companies are doing this too, by the way, that are also working on it, but check out index.fun. We talked about prediction markets. Index.fun is actually right now a prediction market where you can go up or down on some of these indexes and these narratives that are out there. So check out index.fun, but also it's also a prediction market. So you can participate in your belief if the narrative is going to go up or it's going to go down. And partially, really happy to see that Polymarket, another prediction market, the biggest out there, is now free from the Department of Justice clause. Really, congratulations to Shane and the team. He's been working tirelessly hard, more than 5-6 years, from down and out, kicked, all the way at the bottom to coming back alive and super strong. So really, congrats to him and the team. And they got the election right. One thing next, a day later, the federal agents come in, steal his phone, steal his computers, take it all away. And after they lost the election. So super happy for Shane and the team over at Polymarket. And hopefully we'll be doing something together. Shane, let's connect again. On that note, we are talking about Tesla owners. I just thought this was funny. So totally going away from the narrative around prediction markets, but we really think prediction markets are really going to be a huge future. Why? Because a lot of the data sets that you have available are now coming online, right? Look alone at Truflation. They have brought on-chain onto the Truth Network over some 100 million data points. So all of a sudden, you've got all these RWA data feeds, and combined with partners like Parcel that are working with the Truth Network, combined with a real estate data that you get on there, combined with WeatherXM that's bringing weather data on chain, right? All of a sudden, you're getting all of these real world event data on a blockchain. Now, all of a sudden, thanks to the Truth Network in SQL, I can just write functions straight away to that chain, and I can immediately have an index. And guess what? Indexes are futures. Today, in the futures world, out in the market on CME or ICE or all of these exchanges, you have quadrillion size volume of trades. Quadrillion. How big is that? I don't know, man, but that's definitely blow your mind big. And so all of a sudden, those will start moving on chain. They'll be much more flexible. They'll be accessible for everybody. So we can all start to trade futures contracts and couple together. If this, then that. If this happens in my index, then make this transaction and buy in at this futures for this element now, right? So all of those things will start to become a reality as more and more of this becomes available. And we're super glad to be in the middle, working with some of the best players to try and enable this. On that note, sort of coming back to the topic du jour, I thought this was quite a funny post. There's been a lot going on at X. And I think what XAI has done, there's this benchmark the AI math index, AIMI or AIME or something That is a benchmark used for all the AI engines of the LLMs out there. And within 24 months, 2 years, from zero to hero, Grok broke the benchmark or hit 100 on the benchmark, which is the top mark you can get. So the benchmarks can't even measure anymore. So blew out, hit the roof, and the roof was too strong, so it didn't break through the roof, but it hit the 100 on the top of the roof. But either way, I thought it was really funny that somebody posted this. It's maybe, you can make it's either a rocket or a saucer or a plane, but you can make your own distinctions. But in Austin, they've extended the robo-taxi network, and this is what the robo-taxi network looks like. So yeah, interesting diagram there. But more importantly, as a part, I guess, of the celebration, there is Waifu has come alive, right? Or I think it's Amy is her name, Amy, which is an anime that is now your companion on Grok. Grok is the app that you use to interact with the Grok or XAI LLM. So all of a sudden, you have now this beautiful Amy that you can interact with. So you think you can't announce Waifu as a feature and a government defense deal in the same name, but this is XAI. So Elon was announcing that he would offer XAI to the Department of Defense, and the same day he announced his Waifu. So check out Waifu. You'll see a lot of interesting videos out there and the new companion. So interesting activities, lots coming, lots moving. And what does this mean in the crypto landscape? So I'll stay tuned. I'll talk about that next week on Thursday, sorry. So I'll give you some crypto insights and some interesting features and ideas on what is taking place. But to go to Grok, you can go to Grok here, you can sign up, you know what to do, and you can enjoy that feature. Yeah, but that's it today. I am going to save the crypto insights once the bills have been passed. So we'll talk about the UK inflation on Thursday, what's going on in the UK. Everybody's really worried about the UK, criminal effects, et cetera. And now here we have some interesting crypto insights. So we'll talk about the UK crypto insights. Maybe we'll cover a bit on the PPE, right? Producer price index. What does that mean in the wholesale level? What sort of wholesale price movements are we seeing? Because ultimately, that's a data point that I'm sure the FOMC is looking at and will impact interest rates. And on that note, hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much. See you Thursday. I was way over, another 10 minutes, 20 minutes over, so double lengths. Hope you enjoyed that. I got to get back to work and hope you enjoyed that. See you Thursday. And I'm just going to move on because I'm repeating myself. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, day, morning, depends where you are.